YouTube, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the show. I hope you just heard the news. The first ever XRP ETF is going live November 13th. Write it down, circle it on your calendar. But look, I'm dead serious. What I'm about to show you in this episode might be the clearest signal yet that the next crypto wave, it's already forming. And the mainstream media, they don't even realize it yet. Nasdaq, they just exposed something massive. The same people who once laughed at XRP and said crypto was over, they are now quietly building the rails for the new financial system. Let that sink in. We're talking Ripple acquisitions, global banks saying all money will be digital, and billion-dollar funds reposition, all while retail, they're sound asleep. And here's the kicker. Jim Kramer, good old Jimmy boy, he just said we entered a bear market. You already know what that means, right? Bull run. Every time he says that, the charts go absolutely vertical. So buckle up, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why XRP might be standing at the front of the biggest macro trade of our lifetime. Make sure you smash that thumbs up and hit subscribe so you never miss a dull moment. And we're starting right here. Look, if you're holding crypto, which I'm sure you are, and you don't have it structured right, you're leaving money on the table. I'm telling you, one call with me could literally save you thousands in taxes, fees, and rookie mistakes. Whether you want to learn how to set up your LLC, move profits the smart way, or just finally get your plan dialed in for the bull run, this is where you start. It's a small cost, but you get a massive payoff. Plus, once you get that call booked, you can also join the newsletter for free. Why not? Why aren't you part of the newsletter? I break down the crypto markets, the tax moves, and upcoming catalysts every single week. Don't overthink it. Those links are down below, and we're going to start right here with good old Jimmy boy, because Kramer just hit the panic button again. He said we're in a bear market. I love that out of him. Charts don't look so great right now. But is this the ultimate reversal that we've been looking for? Look, if you've been in crypto longer than 5 minutes, you already know. When Kramer calls it doom, it's usually boom. And when he calls it boom, it's usually doom. Let's go back through history on this, okay? He told everyone back in 2020, sell your Bitcoin. And then we shot to 69K. He called Meta done right before it doubled. This man is a reverse oracle. Legit. The Kramer indicator is undefeated. If you ever go on Reddit, there's a whole section dedicated to Jim Kramer, and these people, they do exactly the opposite of what he says, and they are making a killing. You can't make that up. And right now, Kramer himself, he's calling for a bear market. While institutional wallets are loading up and the Fed, the Nasdaq, and Ripple are laying the groundwork for the next bull phase. So when Kramer screams bear, I see bullhorns. And that leads us right into what the real players are saying behind closed doors. The New York Fed conference, they said crypto is going exponential. Let that sink in. At the New York Fed conference, Main Street media, what were they doing? Fear-mongering. Something incredible happened. A woman from BNY Mellon, we're going to listen to this clip. One of the oldest banks in America sits beside the CEO of Fireblocks, and the message was crystal clear. Crypto's going exponential. That's why incumbents are on board. Think about that. The incumbents, they're all boarding. Not speculating, not mocking, on boarding. This is the same institution, let me remind you here, that manages trillions in assets. They are now publicly saying that crypto adoption is about to absolutely rip. Listen.
I think that, kind of following on what Caroline said, it's usually hard for people to understand the impact of basically exponential growth, right? Especially for incumbents. I think they kind of look at their business and like, okay, this is what we were doing for the last 50 years, 100 years, right? It's already kind of a linear trend. And they assume that all their competitors or basically all the disruptive technologies are approaching this in a linear pace, right? But the reality is that most technologies, their adoption is exponential. I think everybody kind of experiencing this right now is AI. Like honestly, what we've seen with AI in the last 2 years, I think all of us can agree that we have no idea how the world is going to look like in 2 years from now in terms of what those things will be able to do. And I think the same thing is actually happening with digital assets, right? Because when we started in 2018, and even 3 years ago in the peak of the previous cycle, people would say, well, listen, all this stable coins and all the stuff that you guys are doing is so small that the systems are not scalable, the performance is not there. And there were a lot of those arguments. I don't know how many people here know this, but last year in 2024, Tether, the stablecoin, they did more volume than Visa and MasterCard. Okay,
Crazy,
and that
crazy.
happened in 2 years, right? This is the exponential adoption, right, that we are seeing. A couple of years ago, I met with some of the European clearing depositories, warehouses, and they basically said, well, look, we're operating at this scale. There is no chance that anyone will come and disrupt us because the complexity and everything that we've built in the last 70 years. Right now, Fireblocks is doing more transactions per month than Euro and Clearstream combined, right? And that happened in 2 years, right? So I think that there is definitely an argument here that what happens in digital assets broadly, I think that the incumbents do need to reevaluate some, I think you're absolutely right. I think that the question is, what is really defensible because it is defensible? And what is defensible because there is some kind of status quo perception of how the world is basically.
Let's stop it there. Look, this isn't theory anymore. They're not testing. We are way beyond that. They are finally entering this space and they are executing. And speaking of partnerships, wait until you see this one. That's right. This one almost flew under everyone's radar. Get it? Under the radar? The weather coin story? Come on now. Vivo Power just announced a $5 million investment into K-Weather, picking up roughly 20% of the company. Why should you care? You're probably like, Rip, we don't give a crap, but you should. This is why. Vivo Power, their funds are going to be used for more exposure into XRP, and they're going to launch a brand new crypto asset called Weathercoin. Weathercoin is going to be a derivative instrument for apps that are focused on climate risk management. What does it all mean? Well, simple. We're watching the tokenization of the climate economy, all powered by XRP's infrastructure. This is what people don't get. XRP isn't just a payments coin. It is evolving into a liquidity layer for everything from weather data all the way down to derivatives. And it is all part of the bigger shift that is now being recognized as the biggest macro trade of all time. It's right here. It's with Raoul Pal. So right now, the market for tokenized real-world assets, your RWAs, sits at about $3.5 trillion. Sounds big, right? Well, try 100 plus trillion, because that is exactly where this is heading. I mean, we're talking real estate, we're talking bonds, commodities, data, all flowing through digital ledgers. Listen.
But that's a small part of the overall space. So if we're going to $100 trillion, how big is Bitcoin in that? 20 trillion? 25 trillion? Well, there's 75 trillion of other value. And that's what crypto is. It's the technology part of blockchain. How else can you use blockchain? And it was smart contracts that really changed everything.
And if that crypto thesis plays out, how would you explain that to an institutional investor? How does that future financial system on the blockchain look like? Where do you see the biggest potential?
So in the financial markets, everything will go on chain. So all equities will go on chain, quicker settlement. We're seeing money going on chain in terms of stablecoins. We'll see every derivative will end up being an NFT because they're just individualized contracts that can be settled instantaneously. That's what prediction markets are. They're basically derivative markets. So all of this is much more efficient way of ownership, monitoring flows, security, everything. So the financial system will en masse move entirely to this framework. It makes much more sense.
100% it makes much more sense. Look, this is the kind of generational transition that's going to make your early believers and turn them into billionaires. With a B, billionaires, everyone. And XRP, it is positioned right in the center of this. It is bridging your old world finance over to the blockchain economy, which is exactly why the CEO of Standard Chartered just dropped one of the boldest statements that we have ever heard. He went on to state, and let me pause this for a second.
Our belief, which I think is shared by the leadership of Hong Kong, is that pretty much all transactions will settle on blockchains eventually, and that all money will be digital. Think about what that means. A complete rewiring of the financial
Think about what that means. A complete rewiring of the financial system and all money will be digital. This happened at Hong Kong FinTech Week. That's Bill Winters. He's the CEO for Standard Chartered. Let that sink in what he said. All money is going to be digital, and this is going to be a complete rewiring of the financial system. $1 trillion bank is sitting here on stage telling you that the game is changing. Not maybe, not someday, but right now. They already are diving deeper into Bitcoin, tokenization, and stablecoins. The shift is slowly happening. And then you know what happens? It floods, and it all happens at once. So when price dips, who do you think's buying? The smart money. They're the ones buying. They're not sitting there and panicking. They're accumulating because they understand where this is going next. And ironically, that brings us over to the Nasdaq, because even the Nasdaq is now exposing just how deep this transformation really is. And this came out of Ripple's swell event. The Nasdaq CEO confirmed what we all suspected. But you know what? We can only speculate and guess, but she came out and she told us pretty much what we've been saying this whole time was right. The US government shutdown, it has choked crypto progress. Delays, roadblocks, regulatory silence, you name it. This isn't random. What do you think is happening here? They are still getting positioned. And when I say they, I'm talking about your big players. But here's the twist. Because the longer that this lasts, the bigger the pressure build up behind the dam. And when it finally breaks, because it will break, we're going to see capital flood into this sector like we've never seen before. And that is exactly why the Nasdaq just revealed something jaw-dropping. We're talking Ripple, Swell, Monica Long on stage, and she stated that there's over 17 crypto companies for IPO approval. And she says it will happen once the shutdown ends. 17, folks, that's crazy. We're talking about 17 future crypto giants, all just waiting at the starting lines, revving their engines, waiting for that flag to come down so they can get going. Think about what happens when these IPOs hit. You get liquidity, you get visibility, and you get legitimacy. This isn't a niche. This is mainstreaming of blockchain finance. And one company, one ecosystem is making moves that could put them miles ahead of everyone. I hope you understand what Ripple is doing, because their power move, acquiring Paradise Inc., which is a wallet as a service platform. This isn't just another headline. This is Ripple quietly assembling the full stack, custodies, payments, infrastructure, everything you need to power enterprise-grade blockchain finance. This tech is going to help Ripple expand globally, integrating with businesses and institutions that need secure crypto infrastructure. And we're not done there, because this is where it gets even wilder. Because even the industry veterans, they are taking notice. That's right. The CEO of CoinRoutes, he said it best. He stated that Ripple has a great balance sheet. The world has gifted them XRP. They can borrow against it and create a great balance sheet. He called Ripple Prime a great idea. He stated that a prime brokerage that finally lets hedge funds go long, short, and finance positions in crypto like they do in traditional markets. In other words, Ripple is building that bridge for institutional capital to flood into digital access. Now, folks, it's not speculation. They are engineering the rails of a new economy, the one where XRP sits at the heart of global liquidity. So let's connect all these dots as everyone's busy staring at the charts. Kramer screaming bear market, institutions whisper exponential, the Fed hosts conference about blockchain, Nasdaq ready 17 crypto IPOs, banks worth trillions of dollars announce all the money is going to be digital, and Ripple, the company tied to XRP and the XRP ledger, they just keep expanding quietly, globally, and strategically. If you can see what's forming here, you're early, and I salute you, because this isn't just going to be another altcoin rally. This is going to be a full-out, blown-out rewiring of the financial institution, the financial system, I should say. And XRP is right in the middle of it, folks. So don't sleep on this. Stay informed, stay positioned, and stay ready, because when this next crypto wave hits, and it's going to hit, it's not just going to move the markets. It is going to reshape